The U.S. Supreme Court made news today when it decided not to take up same-sex marriage. Without explanation, the High Court declined to review any of the appeals filed against lower court rulings that allowed same-sex marriage in 5 different states. That means Virginia, Utah, Oklahoma, Indiana, and Wisconsin now join the other 19 states where same-sex marriage is legal. But the move also leaves intact the same-sex marriage bans in at least 20 other states. It also leaves unresolved for now whether same-sex couples have a broader constitutional right to get married. Here for a reaction to today's non-ruling are Vicki Henry. She's an attorney with Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders, and Reverend Irene Monroe, who was a syndicated regional religion columnist and LGBT activist. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Were you relieved or disappointed by this ruling? Because they didn't take it up, they didn't resolve anything.
I think it's a great step forward. It immediately clears the path for people to get married in 5 different states, and then pretty soon thereafter it should be another 6 states to take us to 30, like you were saying. The Supreme Court is comprised of very smart people, regardless of whether you agree with them. They know what they're doing, and they knew they were letting people get married in these states. So it's huge. We'll have about 60% of the country live in states where they can get married, and every time we have marriage somewhere, people see that the sky does not fall, that in fact loving families get greater protection and recognition, and we get more and more acceptance.
But they haven't taken any dramatic moves. I mean, even when they did the DOMA thing, they kind of threw it back to the states as sort of a federalist issue. But they haven't looked at the constitutionality of the rights to,
That's right.
to same-sex marriage. And should they?
And interestingly, I agree with Vicki that, of course, this is a good day, but it's not a great day. And the reason for that is that while we make incremental steps towards this issue, we always have to remember those states and those couples who don't have benefit of marriage, of marriage rights. So we're talking about places like Mississippi and Louisiana, and can you believe Florida, a vacation state?
I hate to say it, but I can.
So in those states where the church really rules sort of the roost here, this is where you need a really robust kind of action by our Supreme Court. And sort of it reminds me, interestingly enough, as I was thinking about it, it reminds me back in slavery, where you had free states and unfree states, and you had folks, running from state to state. And it reminds me when I marry couples, and they're coming from Alabama because they can't get married there, and they can get married in Mississippi, in Massachusetts. But then when they go back to Alabama, the state doesn't recognize
hand, if they
that.
rule, they could rule that there isn't a constitutional right. I mean, they don't take up other things. The Supreme Court has never taken a position on the death penalty. I mean, once again, it's a federalist issue. Shouldn't be, but it is.
Well, the pickup on the theme from both of you, I mean, the part of the issue is that people are still being harmed every day. And that's the sad part of today's decision, is that, we need a 50-state solution. And they've delayed that day when we might have that solution. And so we have real couples who are being harmed, who it's great, they can come here into many other states and get married, but they go back and they're in a bit of a legal chaos because the federal government will now recognize their relationship, but Alabama or Mississippi or several other states won't recognize the relationship.
And the court did make a decision with Loving versus the Commonwealth of Virginia in 1967. So I was a little disappointed that, come on now, you can, this is a puddle jump. You can do this, but maybe not.
Well, I don't even know how it works. So, I mean, somebody would have to take the constitutional issue to them and
right. So now all eyes are on the 2 courts that have already had cases argued. So the Sixth Circuit, which covers, and it's my people, it covers Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So that case was argued in August. So we're waiting for a decision. They could go either way. Obviously, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg, has said, the Supreme Court doesn't feel compelled to act as long as the courts are all on the appeals level are deciding the cases the same way. So there's no conflict, and maybe they'll just leave the appeals courts to rule it out. The Ninth Circuit has also heard arguments, so we're waiting for them in Nevada and Idaho and Hawaii, and that would cover several other states as well.
So is that your theory too, that they're like other issues, they've just kind of put it back onto the states? I mean, why else Why wouldn't they take it? I mean, it'd be, it would have been
well, you're right, and I think they don't, because they really, in many ways, they don't have a 5-4 kind of ruling that they need in their favor to move this issue. I mean, you're the attorney, but that's how that's what I feel. I feel like they're playing sort of chess.
Well, I mean, it's always dangerous to speculate about what they're doing, but we do know that the 4 justices we think would not rule in favor of marriage, they could have voted to take a case. It only takes 4 justices to take a case. But they're thinking maybe that we don't have 5 votes, so we won't vote to take a case. And as Justice Ginsburg says, as long as the appeals courts are ruling in favor of marriage, they don't feel pushed to take a case.
See, but you're playing with people's lives. See, that's the point. Now, the other 20, if we say 30 now have marriage equality, you're playing with people's lives. You're talking about people who don't have access to health care. I mean,
I agree with you. Wait a minute. I don't want to.
We're all on that team.
I completely agree. But they said during arguments in Windsor or Perry that they let issues percolate. I think it was perk for a while. And I agree with you. It causes tremendous amount of pain. People are getting hurt every day. People are, not having their relationships recognized, not being able to marry, maybe dying without getting married.
Vicki Henry, Irene Monroe, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.